everybody, welcome back to Citadel Survivors, week number 10, 2023. Where if you're in a standard survivor pool, we are past the halfway point. Hopefully you're still in it. Hey, last week we did pretty good with our picks. We are picking winners with the Cheezeman again. I love that. Take a look here at Survivor in our final team in the big pool. We chose Cleveland. They won 27-0. Pretty easy victory. Last week was pretty easy for Survivor because most people took Cleveland or New Orleans, and both teams won. You can see my picks in the primary pool going with Cleveland there. My one team is still remaining. Overall, though, in Cheezeman's top 5 plays, take a look. We did pretty well. The only loss we had, oh my God, the Bears game. New Orleans has 42 tries. The kid has a chip shot field goal in the fourth quarter, and he donks it off the goalpost. Otherwise, we got our over, and we should be 5-0 last week. 5-0. Giving you some winners. Getting back on track, because we had 2 weeks in a row there where you guys were giving up on me, right? Because I was losing. But now we come back with 4-1, pretty good. 5-0 last week. You see the Giants and Vegas under hits. This week, Vegas plays the other New York team, the Jets. 2 more teams that can't really score. We're probably going under again there. Back to the well. Dallas, Philly over. We talked about that. That series has averaged 60-some points a game the last 5 times out. And so we like that, and it hit. Indy beating Carolina. We like that. It was a little funky, that game. And then Buffalo, Cincinnati under. That seemed pretty easy when we hit there. On the bonus side, you can see where we hit and we missed. Now, one of the things that hurts is I don't get the player props in time some of the time. Here's the big poll. 1,791 entries, 203 remain. 11 were eliminated last week. That's 5% of what was remaining in the pool. Top win choices, like we talked about, Cleveland and New Orleans were basically the primary choices. The biggest loss choice was Atlanta and New England. I felt bad for you Atlanta pickers because, right, they're going against a rookie, Jaron Hall from Minnesota. He gets hurt like the second play of the game. Minnesota had acquired Josh Dobbs, a veteran. I mean, kind of a veteran. At least he started 10, 12 games. And he played decently for a bad Arizona team. And now he comes into Minnesota with those weapons, and he plays well enough. And they beat Atlanta. It was like, if you chose Atlanta, the absolute worst scenario you could imagine. You want that rookie to play the whole game. Chances are he struggles a bit, has some turnovers. Instead, Josh Dobbs comes in right away and makes it click. So it's one of those, just crazy scenarios in Survivor that just drills you, Stinks. Anyways, take a look at our metrics here. Home teams, they're all basically back to normal now. Home teams around 56, favorites around 66, 67, same for the dogs at 33. Home and away favorites are doing well. The Thursday night favorites win and get back to 66%. Normally they're 65, but except the last 2 years we've been well above that number. Our metrics against the spread, you could see, now here's something unusual. Home teams and favorites are winning. And you can see the home and away favorites both are winning higher than their normal percentages. And then the unders are still killing it. 4-10 last week, over 60%. Just bet unders every game and you'll make money. 6-point favorites straight up, 3-0 last week. As we talk about all the time, upsets for teams giving 6 points or more in a normal season, we see 1.23 per week, 22 per season. Currently, we only have 9 of those. We're only averaging 1.00 per week, which is extremely low. So we have not seen the bulk of our upsets. We should see another 13 before the end of the year. You can see last year they were 27-16 straight up at this point, 6-point favorites, okay? Here's our schedule for week 10. You can see here we're starting off with 2 of the top 5 worst teams, Carolina and Chicago. Justin Fields, it seems like he's not going to play this week. We have 5 favorites of 6 or more points, including Cincinnati, Seattle, Baltimore, Buffalo, but the big one is Dallas at 16.5 points. Just so you know, I have some stats on how teams giving more than 14 points have done in the past years. We have 4 byes: Kansas City, the Rams, Miami, and Philadelphia. And the Indy-New England game is in Frankfurt, Germany again. I hate these international games, but what are we going to do? Let's go see who our 5 worst teams are right now. Number 1 of the New York Giants. They'll take on Dallas this week and will probably get beat. Arizona's number 2, New England 3, Chicago 4, and Carolina 5. This group is now down to 18% winners. You can see there, so 82% of the time you pick against them, you're going to win. Of course, the key is picking the right time against them. Carolina plays Chicago this week. All right, our top 5 offense and defense, you can see Miami now for the first time this year, has slipped below that 442 record pace by the St. Louis Rams years ago. So it really came down last week against Kansas City. Detroit keeps climbing there in second. Philly, San Francisco, Buffalo. Baltimore is now the number one rushing offense. Devin Achane should be back for Miami fairly soon. And I think you see Miami's rush offense climb back up a notch, but Baltimore's running the ball really well. Top defenses, Cleveland number one, shuts out Arizona last week. Baltimore is gaining on them, though, in second place. Dallas, KC, and Detroit right behind them. Cleveland number one pass defense. Philly, the number one rush defense. You know, we talked about this last week about the OUs and how we have these younger QB starters. So I just took a look. You can see here real quick. I mean, Jaron Hall got injured, so you kind of can't count that one. But Brett Rippon started for the Rams. He's a new guy. His game went under. Taylor Heineke is really the guy with the most experience out of this group, and he had an over. But then take a look. O'Connell, Toon, Will Levis, Bagent, Bryce Young, all unders. Stroud, who's easily your rookie of the year on offense right now, had an over. But then some other newer players, Pickett, Jordan Love, Mac Jones, Sam Howell, all unders. So you see what I mean? Like, it's the younger, inexperienced guys who don't have that consistent offense. And maybe that's why we're seeing more unders right now. Let's get into who's in play this week. As you know, of your playoff team options, in an 18-week season, we're going to end up typically picking 14 teams that make playoffs, 4 that miss the playoffs or non-playoff teams. Here are your playoff teams, most likely. Our number one choice this week is Dallas, and my gosh, how could you not like them here, right? I mean, honestly, the Giants have been terrible this year. They're the lowest scoring league team in the NFL. You would think Dallas may overlook them, but I don't think they will. Take a look here. Dallas has won 12 of the last 13 against Giants. It is a rivalry game for Dallas. That's why I don't think they're going to overlook them. Dallas 10-1 in home games recently. Dak's been great in home games. Danny Jones is out. You're going to see Tommy DeVito, most likely, a rookie out of Illinois, who I don't think he threw for 200 yards in a game at Illinois. Dallas is third in scoring at 27 points a game, while the Giants are dead last at 11. This one goes to 11, and that's all it goes to. The biggest point spread of the season at 16.5 points, and you can see there, teams giving up more than 14 points are 82-7 straight up. 82-7. 43-46 against the spread. That shocked me. It's almost 50% winners, and you're getting like 15, 16 points. It's insane in the NFL. I think that Dallas has their way here, and most Survivor players are going to be on Dallas. Now, if you're in the Circa Survivor game, where you play that Thanksgiving Day as a round, chances are you've got to save Dallas for that weekend. And so in that case, you're probably going to look to Cincinnati here at number 2. Now, a lot of people are going to have this overreaction on Houston from last week, but I'll show you the facts here and why we like Cincinnati this week. Houston does have the number 9 offense, Cincinnati 26. But in the last 3 games, you can see there, Houston and Cincinnati are equal in terms of offense, okay? We've talked about this all year. We've been right. We've been exactly right in Cincinnati. Last year, Burrow got hurt in the preseason. Did not play well the first 4 games. And we show you what happens with Burrow after week 5. In fact, it's up there. I think he's, 13-1, 12-1 now after week 5 the last 2 years. And the same thing happened this year. We said it was going to be a struggle for him early, and it was. And now what's happened? Last 3 weeks, they've beaten Seattle, Buffalo, and San Francisco. Not only has the offense started to click, but that defense has kicked in as well. So you could see the red numbers on the Cincinnati side there, especially on defense. Their defense is much better than what that indicates because those early games, they just didn't play well. Houston's 3-1 at home. They're 1-3 away. This game's in Cincinnati, all right? And that includes a loss at Carolina. And we pointed this out last week. I liked Houston going to that Carolina game, right? But Carolina's pass defense is a top 10 passing defense, and they shut Stroud down. Last week, you're going against Tampa, who has a decent defense, but their pass defense was mid-20s. It's not very good. And what happened? Stroud ate them up. This week, you're going against the Cincinnati pass defense in Cincinnati. Even though you can see the ranking is low, it's way better than it's performed to date. I think Stroud will struggle. He's not going to get as many points as y'all think. You can see there, Houston scores 27 at home and only 19 on the road. Cincinnati in the last 3 weeks, they've held Seattle, San Francisco, and Buffalo, 3 top offenses, to 16 points a game. I know y'all know Houston's offense is not as good as those 3 offenses. So I think Cincinnati can hold them down here as well. Now, the other thing is, I've been wrong on Houston. I've been right on Cincinnati almost every week this year. I've been wrong on Houston almost every week this year, except last week I got them right. I got it right. But this week, we're going with Cincinnati all the way to beat Houston, and this should be an under. Denver and Buffalo is number 3. Now, Buffalo has been reeling. Take a look at this. Denver, their defense is 32nd, but their numbers are totally skewed by that Miami game when they gave up 70 points in the second half. Obviously, they were just not into it, right? And Miami just racked up points and yards, so their defensive stats look way worse than they are. And actually, in the last 3 weeks, they've ranked 15th in defense. They've improved dramatically, while Buffalo's in those 3 weeks is 20th. They were a top 5 or 6 defense, and they're slipping. Last 3 weeks, Denver has played, they've gone 2-1. They played the Chiefs twice in Green Bay. They beat Green Bay once and the Chiefs once. So it's not like they're playing slackers. The Chiefs are a good team. Buffalo, on the other side, has played New England, Tampa Bay. They lost to New England. They gave up 29 points to one of the 3 worst scoring offenses in football. Tampa Bay almost beat them, actually. And then they gave up 24 to Cincinnati. So their defense is going the wrong direction. In the last 3, Denver's rushing offense is up to number 3 in the league, but Buffalo's rush defense is number 6. It's that Buffalo pass defense that's been getting annihilated, but Denver has been horrible throwing the football. So the key is, can Denver throw the ball against this Buffalo defense that recently has just been torched in the passing game? In the meanwhile, we know Buffalo needs to win this. They need to get back on track. Josh Allen, when he focuses and doesn't put that team at risk and doesn't commit turnovers, Buffalo usually rumbles and plays well and wins. I think Buffalo's going to win this game. Cleveland and Baltimore. Man, this might be the game of the week. I've talked up Cleveland all year. I think they're undervalued and underrated by far, especially their defense, which has been number 1 all year. Baltimore's is number 2. You got the 2 best defense in the league going here. And what's strange is you have the 2 best rushing teams in the league, despite both teams lost their top rusher early in the season, right? Nick Chubb, gone, one of the best running backs in football. Dobbins for Baltimore, gone early in the season. And so you're playing with backup running backs, but they're still, you can see they're number 1 and number 3 in rushing offense. Baltimore is playing really well lately, really well. Both their offensive lines rank in the top 5. Their defensive lines are excellent. Of course, Cleveland, Myles Garrett is outstanding. I think the key to this game is who wins the battle of the lines, both the offensive and defensive lines. Who is going to win that battle in the trenches? On paper, you got to like Baltimore the way they're playing. They've beaten Cleveland in Baltimore the last 3 times they've played there. Lamar Jackson's playing probably as well as he's ever had, while Deshaun Watson has still kind of been a bit struggling. I kind of like Baltimore to win. I think I would take them. They're given 6. I don't know. I think Cleveland might be able to stay with them. We'll see. We'll see. It's going to be a good game. All right, here's your in-play, non-playoff team option. Seattle is really the only one. You've got Washington coming in. And Washington comes in off a win over New England. I just don't get it. You trade away basically your 2 best defensive players, Montez Sweat and Chase Young, and your defense actually looked better last week than it has. So kind of weird. And Seattle just got shellacked at Baltimore 37-3. Now, Washington's losses this year have come to Buffalo, Philly, and Philly. You can't fault them on that. Those are kind of good losses. And they played Philly tight. But then they've also lost to the Giants and the Bears, 2 of the 5 worst teams in the league. That's what makes them so strange, you know? They're just a weird, inconsistent team. Now, Seattle is, you can see they're number 7 in sacks. Washington is 2nd in giving up sacks. They're just awful. However, their sack rate has slowed down the last couple of weeks. So maybe they're improving that area of the team. Chances are Seattle's going to get some sacks here. It's in Seattle. I think the key for this game is Kenny Walker. He was lighting it up, averaging 75 yards a game. The last 2 weeks, he played the top 2 rush defense in the league, Baltimore and Cleveland. Washington's rush defense isn't that good. Get back to what you do best. That'll open up that passing game for Geno. Geno hasn't played well lately. He's due for a good game. And it seems like Metcalf and Lockett have gotten through their little bang-up injuries and are ready to go. So I like Seattle here. Get Kenny Walker rolling, win this game. I would probably take Kenny Walker over rush yards. I got to see what it is. I haven't seen it yet. Here's your maybes. We got 5 of them on the board this week. Starting with Carolina, Chicago. And, you know, this one's tough. Actually, these 5 maybes are really as risky as the riskies. These are tough picks. You got to have some stuff to pick these teams. But if you need them, Here's maybe who I would lean to. Here's what's weird. Both these teams' defenses are improving. Carolina to the pass defense and Chicago rush defense. Take a look there. Chicago is the number 4 rush defense overall now. Number 1 in the league the last 3 weeks. And they've played good teams, right? Look what they played. Vegas with Josh Jacobs, the Chargers with Eckler, New Orleans with Kamara. And they've held these 3 teams to 60 yards per game rushing. Of course, they give up some passing yards there. They're 28th in the league in passing. Carolina pass defense is up to number 5. And look at the teams they've played. Pretty good teams. Miami, the number 1 pass offense. Houston, a top 10 pass offense. And Indy, who's scored 20 points every game this year. They held those 3 teams to 167 passing yards a game. Number 3 overall in the league in that stretch. Their pass defense is improving dramatically. The Bears don't have a very good pass offense. Tyson Bagent will be playing. My key is, will Tyson Bagent be able to run the ball as effectively as he did the last couple weeks? Especially last week, he was really good. And can Chicago run that ball with Deontay Foreman getting kind of a revenge game and Bagent running against that number 28 rush defense? If they can, look for Chicago, keep Carolina off the field, and win this game. Number 7, I have down Tampa Bay, and here's why. Tennessee, we've talked about this last week as well. In Nashville, they're a whole different team. 3-0, averaging 27 points a game. On the road, you can see they're now 0-4, averaging 12 points a game. It's just a completely different world. It's crazy. Will Levis will start, the rookie quarterback, 2 games ago. He had a real nice game. Last week he goes on the road against Pittsburgh. He does hit his over passing yard. He could do that this week again because Tampa Bay's pass defense now is down to 31st. They just keep falling. Tennessee's strength is with Derrick Henry running the ball, and you can see there Tampa Bay's rush defense is top 10. So I expect Tampa to focus on shutting Henry down, forcing them to go with Levis as their key player. And so you're going to see him flinging it all over. I think Hopkins will at least get enough targets to get I imagine his OU is going to be around 60. Both these teams are 2-6 to the over. The OU is only 38.5 here. I don't know. This one's a tough one to take the over on. It seems like a logical under. The question is, can Will Levis throw it like he did 2 weeks ago against Tampa Bay's susceptible pass defense? Minnesota, New Orleans. This game's really a tough one, too, now that Josh Dobbs is Minnesota's quarterback because he's a legit QB with great weapons like Addison, Hawkinson, Madison. The one area where Minnesota is weak is rush offense. The one area where New Orleans' defense is weak because they have a strong defense is rush defense. Minnesota's going to have to try to run that ball more than they have with Madison. Akers is hurt. He'll be out. And then Dobbs can run it, right? Kirk Cousins can't run the football. Dobbs has escapability and has shown he can run that ball a bit. I think you're going to see Minnesota run the football a bit here. Both teams are 5-4. Minnesota's won 4 straight. New Orleans is winning the AFC South. Minnesota is 4-1 on the road. New Orleans is top 5 in turnover margin. Their defense has been spectacular. They forced turnovers against the Bears last week. Minnesota's in the bottom 5. Both these teams play unders. They are both 2-7 to the over. So 7-2 to the under. But I want you to note, all of Minnesota's games have had over-unders set at 44 points and higher except for 2, the last 2. And in those last 2, they've gone 1-1. Minnesota overs are usually set at 52, 47, 48. They're always higher than where they should be for some reason. New Orleans, their defense has been strong, but look what's happened the last 3 weeks with them. 2-1 overs in the last 3, and they should be 3-0 if that doesn't donk it off the goalpost. He donked that field goal off the goalpost against the Bears. They should be 3-0 to the over right now in the last 3 weeks. This OU is at 41.5. It's low because both teams' records to the over is 2-7. We're playing this one over this week. The question becomes, Dobbs has only thrown 5 picks this year. If he doesn't turn that ball over, Minnesota got a shot here for sure. I think this is more risky. The reason New Orleans is favored and you like them is that they're at home. All their guys are healthy right now. They're all ready to go, right? I mean, you got Derek Carr, Kamara hitting on all cylinders. He's been great since he's been back. Michael Thomas, Olave, Taysom Hill is playing well. And Minnesota does have some injured components, right? Justin Jefferson's still out. Cousins is out. So Dobbs replacing him. And now Cam Akers, the backup running back's out. So you think New Orleans would get it done, but I'm not counting the Vikings out in this one. All right, New England and Indy. New England was such a disappointment last week. And they're averaging only like 14 points a game. They can't score. I just don't get it, man. You should have scored some points against Washington, who just traded away Chase Young and Montez Sweat, and you make them look great. Unbelievable. Now you go against Indy, who can't stop anybody. And Indy scores a lot of points. They're one of the only teams in the league who's scored over 20 points every game this year. New England's given up 20 or more every game but one. I like the Indy team total to get over 22.5 this week. This game's in Frankfurt, Germany. I don't like that. Indy's averaged 29 points a game against defenses like Baltimore, Cleveland, and New Orleans. Those are top 10 defenses. So there's no reason to believe they can't score against New England's defense. I put the key as Indy's number 10 rush offense against New England's number 11 rush defense. But truthfully, I just think both these offenses should do well. And I've said that before with New England, and it hasn't. So it scares me. Indy's 6-3 to the over. They're the league leader right now. We're going to play it that way. Jets, Vegas, both these teams cannot score. It's just nuts. And you can see their defenses are pretty good. Jets defense, number 9 overall, 3 against the pass. Vegas defense, 15, 8th against the pass. That's pretty good. But look at the rush defenses. They can't stop anybody running the ball. Breece Hall, you would think I would love to play Breece Hall rushing over, but I don't get what the Jets offense is doing. Zach Wilson's not that great. You got Breece Hall back there, and they're not running the ball. So I get scared to pull the trigger on a Breece Hall rushing over. I'll probably play it again because he should get it easily. If Hackett just give him the damn ball. The Jets have given up a ton of sacks this year, and Max Crosby is tied for second in the league. I just think you got to run on them until it doesn't work. Key to this game is who does better, Breece Hall or Josh Jacobs. Which rush defense stops the other one? Ultimately, I think both teams will run the ball quite a bit, chew the clock. This game goes under. That's what we'll play here. Here's our 4 risky games this week. You've got Green Bay at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is 5-3, and they've been outgained in yardage every single game this year. That is not a recipe for victory at all. At some point, that comes crashing down. Their offense needs to step it up. Deontay Johnson, we've been on him the last 2 weeks and getting over in his receptions, and we'll take it again. But a sneaky play is we're going to play some Green Bay player to go over because Pittsburgh gives up a ton of yards. They just don't give up a ton of points. So the game probably goes under again, like a 19-17 field goal donkey-do game, but we should see a bunch of yards and players do okay for fantasy. You can see there, Pittsburgh gives up they've scored 133 points. They've given up 163, and they're 5-3. That's almost insanity. Green Bay has lost 2 games away. You can see there to Vegas and Denver by those low scores. So I kind of like the under for the game here. I like some Green Bay players over. Maybe Jordan Love's passing yards should be low enough. Will Levis did it last week. Detroit at the Chargers should be a really good game. Detroit's a top 5 offense and a top 5 defense. The one thing we've talked about with Jared Goff is he's 40 yards a game better at home in that dome than on the road. Now, the one good thing here is he's a California guy, and that LA stadium is a dome, basically. I know it's got some open air stuff, but it's really a dome. He should do just fine there, I would think, with Amon-Ra St. Brown healthy. David Montgomery is probably going to be back. The Chargers have won 2 straight, holding the Jets and Chicago to 19 total points. Prior to that, 19 total between the 2 of them, right? 2 games. Prior to that, the Chargers were giving up 25 points a game. In the last 2, they gave up less than 10 points a game. I have a feeling they're going to go back to giving up 25 points a game against Detroit. San Francisco at Jacksonville. This is a huge game for both teams. Both these teams playing well. Well, they were, right? San Francisco had won their first 5 games, right? And then they lose 3 in a row. Jacksonville started the year 1-2. Now they've won 5 straight. They're clicking now. They're humming. They really got the offense going. But here's a key. San Francisco, Deebo Samuel went out. When he was in the game, he's averaging 30. San Francisco averages 33 points a game. When Deebo's out, they average 17. Deebo's back. He should play. You can see down there, San Francisco's number 8 pass offense against Jacksonville's number 30 pass defense. With Deebo back, I think San Francisco gets this thing going again. They're going to win this game. Atlanta, Arizona, here's the big thing here. Kyler Murray's back and James Conner's back. So now all of a sudden, Arizona looks like a different offensive team. This is not a gimme for Atlanta anymore coming in here. In fact, I think Arizona's going to win the game. Now, Drake London should be back for Atlanta. That'll help them. Atlanta's top 5 defense for the last 2 weeks where they give up 59 points. 59 to Will Levis in his first NFL start and Josh Dobbs, who had 0 practice with the Vikings. So even though, Kyler Murray and James Conner will probably have some rust, but I expect them to get it going and score some points here. I'm liking the over in this game. All right, let's take a look at my pick in the primary poll, week number 10. We're going to go with the Dallas Cowboys now. They have screwed me in the past. Many a time, I hate the Cowboys. Part of it's because they've screwed me. So for those of you who decide, I'm not going to play the Cowboys with the herd, I'm going to go against play Cincinnati or somebody else. Good luck to you. Obviously, you'll be rooting for the Giants to pull off a major upset, and maybe they will. Team records against the spread. You can see Detroit and Jacksonville are best at 6-2. Carolina is the worst at 1-6-1. The Bears are 3-5-1. They play each other this week. That'll be a lot of fun. Best to the over or the under. You can see our under is winning 60% of the times here. Chicago and Indianapolis are the two best to the over at 6-3. You can see San Francisco, Dallas, Arizona, Philly, Miami. Only 7 teams over 500 to the over. On the other side, the Giants are 8-1 to the under because they cannot score. Pittsburgh 7-1 to the under. New Orleans, Kansas City, Las Vegas, Minnesota. And as we talk about New Orleans and Minnesota play each other, you can see the Chargers, Tampa, and Tennessee also big under teams. Here's our top 5 plays from last week. Notice how I let this slide stay on here a little bit longer when we go 4-1 on our top 5. It should have been 5-0. Anyways, here's our top 5 plays for this week. Now, one of the things I get nailed on here, guys, is a lot of times I don't get to see the player props yet. A lot of them still haven't come out yet because one of my favorite plays this week is going to be Tony Pollard rushing yards over. Unless Dallas gets stupid, they should be feeding this guy. Pollard should have a big game this game. I like Kenny Walker rushing over. But here's our top 5. San Francisco, Jacksonville over 45.5. I told you why. San Francisco averages 33 a game with Debo. They're going to need to get this win. They've lost 3 in a row. They're going to get after it. Jacksonville's number 30 defense in the league. And Jacksonville could score. They have a good offense. They're going to score points. San Francisco's given up a bunch of points the last few weeks. This is our game like Philly-Dallas last week where we think it easily goes over. A lot of scoring, a lot of offense in this one. Jets-Vegas under. Why wouldn't you? Both these teams play unders. Neither one can score any darn points. The only thing these two teams are really, really bad at is rush defense, which means if teams are running the ball, it's chewing the clock more. I like this game to go under, just like the Vegas Giants game did last week. New Orleans, Minnesota over. I talked about this earlier. I like this one going over. This is a low OU total for the Vikings. And New Orleans should be 3-0 in the last 3 weeks to the over. So I think this is a good low number, and it's based on both these teams being 2-7 to the over right now. It's a little misleading, like the over here. San Francisco -3 at Jacksonville. I think San Francisco gets a get right here and kind of whoops up on them a bit. Houston, Cincinnati under. We talked about this. Cincinnati's defense has given up 16 a game to Seattle, Buffalo, Cincinnati the last 3 weeks. Just because Houston rolled it up against a Tampa defense where their pass defense has been reeling in the last few weeks, that's not going to happen to Cincinnati. And Burrow is playing well, but Houston's defense is not awful either. So we like the under in this game. I like Cincinnati Buffalo under last week, it hit. I like the Cincinnati Houston under this week. It's going to hit. On the bonus side, we like the Indiana team total over 22.5. They've scored over 20 every game this year, and New England's given up 20 every game but one. Atlanta, Arizona over. I like Kyler Murray to get that offense rolling. I kind of want to see what Marquise Brown's receiving yard over is because he was doing really well with it early in the year. I think he could have a good game here. DeAndre Hopkins receiving over. Okay, we did see it's at 61.5. I like that. He's been getting it with Will Levis. Think he can do it again. Now he goes against that Tampa Bay pass defense, which is kind of weak. Here, rushing yards over. Here's the guys I'm looking at. Breece Hall, Joe Mixon, Kenny Walker, and Pollard. I probably like Pollard and Walker the best because I think Seattle and Coach Carroll, they will commit to the run. Whereas the Jets and Breece Hall, they don't commit to the run enough. And Breece Hall should easily get us over, whatever that total is, I haven't seen. We talked about Pittsburgh. They give up a lot of yards to players. Jordan Love, 215. That's similar to where Will Levis's numbers were last week. I think he can do that. Pittsburgh will give up a bunch of yards. They just don't let you score. I think I saw the Green Bay receivers in the 30s. So Christian Watson might be a play this week. And then Will Levis passing yards over. It's at 214 right now. Against that Tampa Bay defense that just gave up 400 to Stroud. No, Will Levis isn't C.J. Stroud, but he has DeAndre Hopkins. That might be a play that we go with too. All right, you guys, I'm picking a primary pool once again. Oh my God, we're going to the Dallas Cowboys, even as a 16.5 point favorite. I'm scared because the Dallas Cowboys always screw me. Hey, thanks CoolGroove.com, our sponsor. Really appreciate them. Check out their drumsticks, baseball bats, golf grips. Please like us and subscribe to our channel. I really appreciate that. This has been NFL Survivor Week 10 picking winners with the Cheezeman. Good luck. We hope you